Welcome to the Prophecy Club. We are going to continue talking about Bible prophecy today. I'm sure you're very surprised by that, but I must ask you to come to the meeting this weekend. There's no charge for it, so there is absolutely no reason not to come. 2 speakers, 4 different topics. Saturday, August 10th, 10 to 1, 2 to 5, 7 to 10. Sunday morning, August 11th, 9:30 to noon. Saturday, 10 to 1, Doug Woodward, I interviewed him the other day, talking on the hidden partnership of America and Nazi Germany. Then 2 to 5 is Injection of the Beast with Doug Hamp, whom we have on the line about to talk to. Then that same evening, 7 to 10:30, is the Fall Feasts in Bible Prophecy. Then Sunday morning, 9:30 to noon, Doug Woodward again on Today's Plot to Make Men God. It's at the Prophecy Club, Spirit of Prophecy Church, corner of Park and K in Plano at 2540 K Avenue. No charge, so there's no reason not to come. Just look for the Whataburger, and we're right behind the Whataburger, literally just about 20 steps from the Whataburger. So if you found the Whataburger, you got us. Okay, who in the world is Doug Hamp? Well, he's author of 3 books, been teaching Bible prophecy for over 10 years, but the thing I think that impresses me the most is he went to the Hebrew University, where he learned to read Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. I've always wanted to be able to do that, but it's just not my lot in life. But I would love to be able to read the Bible in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, the original language. So, Doug, welcome back to the Prophecy Club.
Hey, thank you for having me back.
How's that feel, man, to be able to read the Hebrew and to understand it?
It's fun. I mean, it came with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, I'll tell you that. Some people, they say, oh, you're just gifted at languages. Well, it very well may be that God gave me a gift, but I sure had to work hard. But, it is exciting because when you're able to kind of get in under the hood, so to speak, I liken it to this, that, if you listen to Beethoven's Fifth on a transistor radio, you're going to hear all the main parts. But when you listen to it on Dolby surround sound or live even, then you get a lot more depth. So it's not that there's any more information per se in the Hebrew, but there is greater depth and understanding. And I've appreciated that. And there's just gems to be mined out of the scriptures. Having the Hebrew and the Greek or wonderful tools to help me go mining. It's great.
Now, one of the things we were just talking about that we really felt like we needed to bring to the folks today, I made a DVD back in 2006 called DNA of the Mark of the Beast, where I proposed that along with the mark of the beast, they would also be offering an injection that would actually be the seed of the beast that would change our DNA, and instead of being, how should we say, Adam and Adam, we'd be Adam and Satan. In other words, 23 chromosomes from Adam, 23 chromosomes from Satan, and it will give us instant healing, and they're going to say eternal life, but unfortunately something goes terribly wrong, and horrible malignant sores begin to break out upon people that take the mark of the beast. And I thought I had a big revelation, and I did, but I thought I was the only one. And then now here you pop up, you got it. Rob has got it, Doug Woodward's got it, and now I understand this is kind of the topic in the prophecy circles out there now.
It's funny because in 2006, prophecy, well, it was sort of on my radar. I wasn't really doing any kind of talking or anything on prophecy. I wasn't into the Nephilim. I wasn't into any of this genetic stuff. I was actually doing a lot on creationism. And then I started to look at it probably around 2010, roughly. I started just looking at the seed. And what I think is so fascinating is, and I sort of kind of thought, well, gee, the Lord's given me something. And, I think the bottom line is the Lord is giving us all something.
That's right.
And, you're one of the pioneers here. But I had no idea that you did anything. I didn't even know your name back then, Stan. And then it's funny because after I wrote my book, Corrupting the Image, I was on L.A. Marzulli's show. He's like, no, have you been reading my stuff? I'm like, no. And he was amazed that I had come up with a pretty similar scenario. And look, the credit needs to go to God, okay?
That's
because
right.
God is the revealer of secrets,
That's
right?
right.
As Daniel said. He revealed it to you. You're one of the early guys, I think. And L.A., came along and did his stuff as well. And then I finally got on the scene. And now others. And I think part of the trouble is, I have a tendency to want to hold on to it. No, this is my thing. But it's really God's thing. This is what God is doing. He's revealing to, people that are willing to listen. He's showing us this stuff. And it's very exciting. I mean, it's incredibly exciting. So to me, this is just confirmation that this is of the Lord. And I think we should take, really great comfort in that the Lord is revealing to a bunch of us in different ways with all of our different skill sets and our different backgrounds and particular interests. He's really allowing us to go to see this in a much clearer way.
Somebody sent me a link yesterday, and it was about this fella that has basically spent his life researching missing people. And I listened to a radio program, and he was being interviewed talking about one example was a man and a woman had their 10-year-old child that had just stepped around the corner. They were up in some national park service. And all of a sudden, they heard the child scream. Of course, the dad takes out running lickety-split, and he can't catch whatever it is that has got his child. And the harder and faster he runs, the further his child, he could hear his screams, getting further and further and further away. And they never found the child. All the technology, the horses, the dogs, everything, 500 people looking for him for 3 days, could not find the boy. Now, there's a lot of stories like that. And my suspicion is, and I've always kind of poo-pooed all of this, Bigfoot, I thought this is all silliness. But, the thought occurred to me, and I'm going to bring this in here in just a second. What took him, and there's like a rash in all of our national parks, a rash of people that are just missing, that just get kidnapped, just snatched out of nowhere. What if this is the Nephilim, and does the Nephilim, in other words, the Bigfoot thing, if the Nephilim has to do with Bible prophecy back to Genesis 6, and does it tie in with the injection of the beast? So are there any thoughts on that, or does it tie together or no?
Well, the thing of missing children and Bigfoot or Sasquatch or whatever, I'm not prepared to talk on that. I'm open to the possibility. I just haven't done enough research to say anything intelligent about it. But, as far as the Bible goes, what we have back in Genesis chapter 6 is we have the sons of God coming down, taking the daughters of men, and they created this hybrid race called the Nephilim. And, this is one of these things that the church, by and large, since the days of Augustine, has said, no, it's not talking about fallen angels, it's talking about the sons of Seth. Ever since that time, the majority view has become the sons of Seth. The minority view has become that it was actually fallen angels. But before that time, everybody unanimously believed that the sons of God in Genesis chapter 6 was a reference to the fallen angels who were coming down and taking the daughters of men, and they created this hybrid race. So that's incredibly important, because Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah, so the coming of the Son of Man will be. We see that the big reason for the flood was because there were Nephilim on the earth in those days. And unfortunately, we have taken the flood account and we have reduced it to a series of cute little drawings, the nursery wall in the church. You've got the giraffe's head sticking out of this ark that's about ready to fall over. And we often leave the story there so that our kids have this very, not even folklorish, but just fairy tale kind of idea of what the whole flood was about. We read this to our kids for a bedtime story as if it's some cute pansy little story. I mean, the flood was the big event in world history. This was it. It didn't get any worse than that, the flood. So the question is, what would cause a very loving and wonderful and gracious God to destroy planet Earth? Was it because people were just being mean to each other? Clearly, there was, great wickedness on the earth, and men's thoughts were continually wicked. And that is where usually those Bible stories start, is it talks about man's wickedness. And, I'm not denying that. But what I find disturbing is that people don't start in verse 1 of chapter 6 when it talks about these fallen angels that were coming down and the giants or the Nephilim that were on the earth in those days and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them, and that these were the mighty men of old, the men of renown. I believe that the myths that we have in the Greek mythology, such as the idea of Zeus coming down is really somewhat of a spin, obviously, but it's the kernel of the story is still there, that the gods came down, in this case, fallen angels. They were called gods. They came down. They took women. I mean, we hear Zeus is just a dirty old man. He's continually going and raping somebody. He took Europa. He took her. He pretended to be a bull. She was riding the bull, and then he turned into Zeus and took her, and he raped her. That's the story of Europe or Europa. There's many others that have the same kind of story of where Zeus came down and took some woman, and then these demigods come about, such as Hercules and Achilles, etc., that they are half man and half God. And the word for that in Greek is the word gegenes. That word is used in the Septuagint of Genesis chapter 6, where it talks about the giants. Now, we think giants as being very, very big, and it's true they were big, but that's not what the word actually means. Gegenes means earthborn. Earthborn in the sense, in fact, if you look at Greek mythology where this word is used, it's talking about someone who is a hybrid, who is a demigod, who's half man and half God, quote unquote. And by God, I'm referring to the fallen angels. So this was the situation back in those days. When we go back and we look at the ancient sources, such as the Book of Enoch, the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs, we look at all of the literature that was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and when we look at Josephus, we look at Philo. So these are all of the ancient Jewish sources. Now, whether or not people believe that the Book of Enoch was actually written by Enoch or not, I don't think it matters in this case.
We'll be right back after this message. The Prophecy Club is having 2 expert Bible prophecy speakers giving 4 talks over Saturday and Sunday, August 10th and 11th. Doug Woodward, author of 7 books, has been teaching Bible prophecy for 40 years. Doug Hamp, 3 books, teaching prophecy for 10 years. Doug Woodward is going to speak Saturday, August 10th from 10 to 1 p.m. on the hidden partnership of America and Nazi Germany. Then, same day, 2 to 5 p.m., Doug Hamp will speak on the injection of the beast. Then, same day, 7 to 10 p.m., Doug Hamp will speak again on the fall feasts in Bible prophecy. Then Sunday morning, August the 11th, 9:30 to noon, Doug Woodward will speak on today's plot to make men God. That's at the Prophecy Club Spirit of Prophecy Church, 2540 Avenue K in Plano, on the corner of Park and K behind the Whataburger. No charge. See you there! Daniel Daves made a DVD called I Saw the Dollar Dead. He's a missionary from Costa Rica, and he had a 3-part dream I really believe is of God. He was shown the death of the U.S. dollar, its global impact, and that all property lines will be dissolved, the rise of the one world government and its following currency. Lindsey Williams has made a new DVD called Cyprus, the Elite Money Grab. Topics are Cyprus, the startling real story, the American dollar, how long, healthcare, a trap, America, the world's only hope, Saudi Arabia, look out, Iran, saber rattling, derivatives, collapse being discussed. It's called the Money Gift Offer. Both DVDs valued at $60 for a gift to the ministry of just $25 or more. 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. The Money Gift Offer. And now, back to the program.
That the Book of Enoch was actually written by Enoch or not, I don't think it matters in this case, because I use the Book of Enoch and these others as, at the very least, they are good Jewish commentary from the 1st and 2nd century BC. And that gives us an insight as to what people were believing about Genesis chapter 6. We could argue the point whether Enoch wrote the Book of Enoch. That's a different show. But that people were acknowledging this book and they were believing this book as being legitimate to some extent, or whether they simply wrote it, that's possible too, and they're in the Second Temple period. Nevertheless, it is reflecting what people believed about Genesis chapter 6. So, everybody there was believing that it was fallen angels We have Athenagoras and Methodius as church fathers who specifically mention Genesis chapter 6 passage, and they also confirm that it was fallen angels. It was only when Augustine came along that he started to poo-poo that idea and say, oh no, that can't be. So this, unfortunately, has set the stage for the majority of the church to say, well, we don't see anything terrible in Genesis chapter 6 other than men just being mean to each other. But again, this is the same God here in Genesis chapter 6. It's the same God who is the loving, gracious, merciful God that we find in the New Testament. He hasn't changed. So why would he do that? And when we leave out the element of the Nephilim, we have a very skewed story. We have a very skewed image of who God is. Because now he seems like a very capricious kind of God. He's just rather whimsical, and he just sort of kills billions of people, men, women, and children, animals, you name it, birds of the sky. Everything died that had breath in its lungs. Every living creature on the planet died because of something that happened there in Genesis chapter 6. And that, unfortunately, has been so downplayed that people really have no idea. And when they hear about the Nephilim, they're like, oh my goodness. And this is where I started the research for my book. And as we talked about last time, I discovered all these other things that really were associated with it. But still, as part of a really core component of what we're talking about, I believe a core component of the end times takes us right back to Genesis chapter 6. And we have to understand that. We've got to spend some quality time there to get it. And once we do, this picture emerges that helps us to understand what is coming after that as well. And let me just add on to that. In 2 Peter chapter 2, Peter says, for if God did not spare the angels who sinned, but cast them down to hell and deliver them into chains of darkness to be reserved for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but saved Noah. All right, so here Peter is giving us an interpretation of Genesis chapter 6. He's talking about these angels who sinned. They're cast down into this place called Tartarus. Hell is a lousy translation. They're in a place called Tartarus. Tartarus in Greek mythology was the place where the Titans were being held. The Titans were the gods that lost. They lost to the gods of Mount Olympus, and they were now reserved in this dark, dingy place in these chains. They're to be kept there, and if they ever get out, then it's kind of the end of the world. Well, sure enough, we know that they are going to get out at the end. In fact, when we go to the book of Jude, we find really the same idea that Peter is talking about, but Jude goes into even more detail. He says, and the angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. And he goes on, and he says, Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them in a similar manner to these. And if you look at the Greek pronoun there, it's the word tutus, and it's masculine and plural. And it requires a masculine plural antecedent. So the antecedent of that is talking about the angels. And in fact, the New English Translation, the Net Bible, just inserts the word angels because that is the antecedent before that. So Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them did something similar to what the angels did, namely, having given themselves over to sexual immorality and gone after strange flesh, are set up as an example of suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. So this is really a significant passage. We have canonized, orthodox, God-breathed, inspired interpretation for us of Genesis chapter 6. And again, much of the church has ignored these passages. They've downplayed these passages. They've attempted to interpret them in a very different way. But, it does sound kind of crazy. I don't deny that. And yet, it's there. It's right there in Scripture. And, so to kind of get back to your original question, could some of these disappearances in national parks be a result of the Nephilim? Well, I don't know. But could it be possible? Well, I think it could be possible. And not only that, there's a lot of talk of people that have been abducted by so-called aliens. Now, just for the record, I do not believe in aliens. I don't believe that there are any life forms out in the Pleiades systems or from Mars or anywhere out there. All life is here on planet Earth. But there's another group of beings called angels, and you have good and bad angels, and the bad angels are trying to kill us. And we know that there's a war going on planet Earth. We know that a war is going to eventually break out in a big way in Revelation chapter 12. It won't be the first time that war will have broken out, but it will be one of probably the most significant spiritual battles ever to take place, I'm guessing. And that's happening right now in the heavenlies. We were told that our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and authorities and the hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. So that is where the battle is at, and there are demons. I believe that demons and fallen angels are the same. They are having this epic battle. And when they pressed through the veil and they came down to planet Earth back in the days of Noah, they took the daughters of men and then they began to create this hybrid race. I think that is happening again. I think the aliens that we are hearing about, the little alien grays or whatever, in conjunction with these so-called abductions. I mean, they are abductions, but who's taking them? I argue that it's fallen angels who are either manifesting as alien grays, or maybe they have somehow created these avatars or bodies for these alien grays. And with that, they are taking people, and the people that are taken, there's no collusion between these people. They don't know each other. But of the reports that have come back from psychologists and from others who have been studying this for a very long time. Dr. David Jacobs is one of those researchers. Dr. John Mack, who was at Harvard for a long time. They had very similar evidence and reports from people that these so-called aliens were taking people's sperm or their egg. Sometimes, in the case of women, they felt that they were impregnated somehow artificially. And that the being inside of them was a hybrid between their seed and the so-called alien or demon seed. And that baby was allowed to grow for maybe about 12 weeks. These alien grays came back at about 12 weeks, took the baby, and then they weren't pregnant anymore. I mean, just strange things like this are happening. And you could say, okay, some of these people are nuts. Now, they probably are, some of them. But I don't think you can argue that all of these people are crazy. I mean, we're talking many thousands of people. I mean, I think now it's in the hundreds of thousands of people that claim to have been abducted. And this is happening all over the world. This has happened in Israel, incidentally. It's happened, of course, here in America. It's happened really in every country. That, in fact, I have a friend who he told me that he was in India doing some evangelism, and he said they're having experiences where they're having sexual relations with a demon. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty crazy. And so he's spoken with people that this has happened to. And, I think we have a tendency to say, oh, that's just a bunch of nonsense. But you know what? It's not. There's a very dark, sinister plot to deceive the world and to try to beat God. And, back in the days of Noah, I believe that Satan's plan, his strategy, was to pollute the human genome, because all he knew is that from the seed of the woman, the Messiah would come. And if you have a polluted seed, then the Messiah would not be able to come through that. And as the centuries have passed on, I think the bullseye has been getting more and more focused so that he doesn't have to try to attack the whole world. Now he knows it's just about Israel. And of course, what do we find when the children of Israel come into the promised land? They find the place is overrun with Nephilim. In fact, in Numbers 13:33, it says that there they saw the Nephilim, the sons of Enoch are of the Nephilim. And that was really a huge verse for me, because when I saw that, I was like, oh my goodness, the sons of Enoch are from the Nephilim, or maybe are kind of one and the same. And I began to realize that that really is an equation. And once I had that, then I could plug in all these other names, because it talks about how the Moabites call them the Amim, the Amorites call them the Zamzumim, They also go by the term Rephaim. God calls them the Amorim, or the Amorites. And in fact, God even says in Amos 2:9, he says, "Yet it was I who destroyed the Amorites, whose height was like the cedars, and whose strength was like the oaks." The day that Joshua told the sun to stand still and the moon to stay in its place, he was fighting Amorites. He was fighting Nephilim. When Jesus comes back, in Habakkuk chapter 3, it says that the sun and the moon will stand still in their habitation. Why? I mean, one of the reasons is it's going to take a lot of time. He's fighting all these Nephilim. Now, he certainly could just blow them over like bowling pins, but, he doesn't do things like that as far as we can tell. He's going to do some hand-to-hand combat, basically, and it's going to take a long time to slaughter all of those Nephilim that are coming against Israel there in the valley of Jehoshaphat. That is, in fact, the Battle of Armageddon, but that's another talk.
So what you're really saying is that we are really in a battle of not just good and evil, but a flesh battle between the sons of Adam, the sons of God, and really the Nephilim, the sons of Satan, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could put it that way. I think the Nephilim, or the sons of Satan, and I don't think Satan has actually put his seed into the game just yet. He has reserved that for the special someone called the Antichrist, who becomes the beast.
Right.
But yes, that's what we're talking about. So when the Lord Jesus comes back, all of those people that have come against Jerusalem and are trying to destroy it are not your run-of-the-mill soldiers.
Right.
These are going to be Nephilim. They're going
Right.
to be people that have taken the mark of the beast. And as you discovered in 2006, and I discovered later, that mark of the beast is really a transformation of the people's DNA.
Right. Well, hold it there. Folks, we've run out of time, but I encourage you to come on out and hear both of these fellas again. It's this Saturday, August 10th and 11th. Saturday, 10 to 1, 2 to 5, 7 to 10. Sunday morning, August 11th, 9:30 to noon. And it's at the Spirit of Prophecy Church, Prophecy Club, 2540 K Avenue in Plano, on the corner of Park and K, right behind the Whataburger. No charge, so there's no reason for you not to come. That's this weekend, August 10th and 11th, 10 to 1, 2 to 5, 7 to 10. And then Sunday morning, 9:30 to noon. No charge. Come on out and hear some of the best speakers, some of the best and the latest information regarding Bible prophecy and the times we live in the last days. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers. And thank you for your gifts of support. God bless.
Prayerfully consider supporting the Prophecy Club. We would not be here without your prayers and generous financial support.
Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. In the Rob Skiba gift offer, his first DVD is Mythology, UFOs, and the Coming Great Deception. Topics are Sumerian, Egyptian, and Greek pantheons, the Coming Great Deception, UFOs and aliens, interdimensional portals, transhumanism, and the quest to be like gods, giants and hybrids. And in Babylon Rising, the topics are the signs in the heavens, Babylon in the last days, New World Order conspiracies, secret societies, and the occult's obsession with the numbers 322, tetrads or blood red moons, and the eclipses in the days ahead, the feasts of God and how they relate to the last days, the tribulation survival plan, and 2045, the year man becomes immortal. Topics will be Genesis 6 Nephilim, hybrid humans, war with hybrids, hybrids among us, the injection of immortality. All 3 DVDs valued at $90, available for a gift of just $50 at prophecyclub.com. There are 30 scriptures in the Bible which say in the last days massive amounts of oil will be discovered in Israel, and we believe we've been given the directive to use this prophesied oil and gas to fund worldwide soul winning. If you have questions about our vision, call 877-OIL-ISRAEL or 877-645-4772.